How did it get so bad? Today, good people, let's properly clean my keyboard. It sounds good, it feels good, but it's nasty. A quick haircut later, I want to tell you about this keyboard. I've been using the Xtrfy K4 TKL RGB for 2 years now. Ever since its launch in 2019, this has been my go-to. There was resistance on when I pulled out this piece of hair. This is what I would consider to be the standard gunk accumulation after 2 years. Nothing's been spilled over it, it's just particles. It's got gunky on the keycaps, on the actual frame. There's a bunch of crap underneath the keycaps. I'm not a keyboard cleaning master, but we're gonna use some common sense, some commonly available tools to my disposal. You could buy keyboard cleaning kits on Amazon, but there's like 1,000 variations of them, and I'll link the ones that I think are actually good down below. I have done a few deep cleans on other keyboards in the past, but this one's different because this is the Hardware Canucks edition Xtrfy K4 TKL, okay? And also, the keycaps are not the floating style, which means that getting access to the area around the switches is a bit more difficult, but I hope we can remove the top element of the frame to give us access to all the gunk. Put everything on display, you say? The Tower 100 Mini by Thermaltake grants you a three-way view of your components with that mini vending machine look that is surely unique for an ITX enclosure. You've got ATX power supply support, large CPU tower heatsinks, triple slot GPUs with no riser necessary, and all the ventilated panels are properly dust-proof. The motherboard I/O is facing up for easy access, and the 2 included fans ensure proper airflow out of the box. This Tower 100 Mini is for those who like to explore. Check it out below. So first, when it comes to the tools, you don't need a lot, okay? You can use toothpicks, Q-tips, toothbrushes, or maybe even paintbrushes. This is what I'll be using to move around the gunk around the switches. A keycap puller, of course, is appreciated. If you have tweezers, it is awesome to get access to those hairs. I have a mix of rubbing alcohol and water, and some soapy water for all my keycaps. So first thing I'm gonna do is turn the keyboard around and punch it a little bit so that whatever gunk has accumulated around the switches and around the keycaps can fall out. Wow, it works. So the first thing I'm doing here is removing my top plate, something that is possible on this particular keyboard. Your keyboard might not have this, or might not have the top plate altogether with the floating style keycaps, which would make the next thing, the next process much easier. With my keyboard in particular, having no top plate gives me better access to the very edges of the keyboard for better cleaning. This allows me to clean this portion separately, and also would be much easier to actually remove these keycaps. Now, before removing the keycaps, you can take a photo of it so you can reassemble the keycaps back in place easier. You can also find this product online, open it up on your monitor, and have a much larger image on where each keycap goes. That's what I'm gonna do. And it's time to remove all the keycaps. So because I removed the top plate, removing the actual keycaps that are on the edges is much easier. We also have a keycap puller, and this is gonna be just a much faster job. You gotta be careful removing the larger keys because of the stabilizer. So I like to kind of pull on one side and then pull on the other. All right, the last space bar. Boom. The next thing is for our keycaps to take a nice soapy bath. Not only will this get rid of any gunk that is like underneath the keycap near the stem, but also help to dissolve any of that grease and stuff that has accumulated over time on the actual surface. Now, I did say that I'm pretty impressed with how clean it is, but at further closer inspection, it is actually quite nasty. Not just like the large hair particles, but just if you go really close with the macro, you can see just gunk accumulation. Not just really small particles that are kind of grimy, but also large particles as well, which is, I don't know what it is, probably skin. I am not puncturing any stickers, so I shouldn't void my warranty. All right, so just as expected, it just comes off like so. Wow, there's even stuff inside this black frame. And now I know why this keyboard sounds so damn good, is because of this dampening foam that makes the base otherwise hollow and kind of fills that in so it doesn't sound hollow. Brilliant. I will remove the cable just so that it's not on my way. For this next part, I'm using a paintbrush. You can use a toothbrush or something with hard bristles to remove any of the large particles like hairs and stuff. And I'm really surprised at how like dispersion of these large particles is very specific to like around the spacebar, around the enter, and so much gunk around my left shift. You want to use something hard that doesn't absorb liquid, because as I go over with the paintbrush around stuff, paintbrush perhaps is not the best idea here because I can feel this. This is very grimy already, and that's not a good thing. It's interesting the stuff that comes out of the stabilizers, my gosh, because they are also lubed here. There's a bunch of hair that's also lubed now. Great, my gosh, this left shift is so filthy. Now that all the large and visible hairs have been removed from the base, it's time to use a cotton swab to go around the really nasty areas and just like try and scrub off the grime. It is really important to mix some alcohol in the water because otherwise, if you're just using water, see all this gunk here, it would not come off as easy. It would just like grime around even more, spread around a bit more, you know, dislodge it from its original position and use the dry side to kind of collect it all. There we go. This was a bit more difficult than I expected, to be honest, just because I didn't expect the grime to be so sticky. So it's not just a matter of coming in with a cotton swab and wiping it off. You really physically have to kind of scrub it off and then come in again with something else, with a new cotton swab to like remove the gunk that way. So the good thing is though, you know, it was fairly concentrated around the spacebar, around the left shift, around the right enter as well. Even the WASD area is fairly clean, and everything else outside of it is pretty much brand new. So now it's time to wash the keycaps and reassemble. I made a mistake of using the paintbrush before removing all the grime with the cotton swab, and that is because the grime got absorbed into the paintbrush, and that is kind of nasty. It's very sticky. I had to wash it with soap, and even still, it's just All right, so now it's time to work on our keycaps. They've been soaking in the water, in the soapy water, for about an hour. And what I like to do is one by one take them out and dry them on a kitchen towel. One thing to keep in mind, there's gonna be a lot of water inside the keycap itself, so you gotta tap them to remove some of that water and face them up so that portion can dry. Wow, they smell clean. This is going to be a really nice restoration. You should also replace this water a couple times before actually drying the keycaps, just to remove any of the soap and any residue that has accumulated in the water itself. I am going one by one just so I can clean all 5 sides of the keycap. So not just the top surface, but whatever gunk has accumulated on the side of the keycap, and that is very important. Once they're all dry and on the keyboard, I will give them one last polish, but that's pretty much it. I'm very happy with the keyboard base. All the gunk has been removed around the switches, around the stabilizers. And the stabilizers, because they're lubed, there was a lot of stuff, like just hair and gunk accumulated around the lube. So you kind of have to be careful not to take the lube out or not remove too much of it. Or if you have your own, you know, you can always replenish the lube on the stabilizers yourself. So now our base is clean, our keycaps are dry, and my gosh, what a difference it is actually like feeling the base plate around the switches. It's no longer sticky and grimy, it's smooth. And also, I mean, this is a white base plate. If this was black, all the gunk and stuff would not be as visible as it is, of course, on the white model. Okay, cable is connected back. Now, before I put the top plate back on, I want to do one last sweep for anything that has accumulated over here, little particles that I didn't fully pick up. And notice I'm brushing kind of like up or down. I'm not trying to brush within here because that doesn't get rid of the particles away from the actual board. So now let's give this one last sweep, and it's brand new basically. Wow, looking clean. Time to do the keycaps. This is my least favorite part. I do have the image of the keyboard open on my monitor, so I can refer to that for layout. But normally what I like to do is start with like the F keys, you know, the larger control shift stuff that I know where everything goes, and then move on to filling in the rest of the stuff. The last thing I'm doing is to give each key a little polish, just to remove any residue that I have put on it while handling the keycaps. Whew! All right, it does look brand new. Well done, Dmitry. All right, good people. This thing is back in working order in brand new condition. Cleaning the keycaps, cleaning around the switches. Good thing the top plate is removable to give me better access to all the gunk and stuff around the switches. But if you have a floating style keyboard, it's even easier. The main thing to keep in mind when you're cleaning around the switches is to make sure that the tools you're using don't leave any residue. So the little bristles on my brushes, they did fall off a couple of times. That's why I had to do one last cleaning before I put everything together. And also not to use too much liquid, because that would, you know, just careful not to leak around the switch, careful not to use too much alcohol on, especially with ABS keycaps, because it will rub off some of that coating. For keyboards that do disassemble, I would recommend it to make your job easier. Of course, keeping in mind on how to assemble the keyboard back together. For example, here, it's good that you don't need to remove any of the rubber feet to access the screws. All 4 screws are easily accessible, but for some keyboards, you would need to remove, let's say, a rubber foot underneath where you find the screw, but luckily we didn't have to do it here. This was a very simple procedure. You know, I'm not disassembling any of the switches to remove some gunk there. I'm not removing all the lube from the stabilizers, because actually it has plenty of it still, even after me you know, carving some of that out stuff so that I could remove some of that residue. Overall, I'm very happy how this turned out. This is basically in a brand new condition, just how I got it 2 years ago. So if you have any keyboard cleaning experience, let me know in the comments. And if you ever had to clean switches, how did you do it? Share your thoughts down below. I'm Dmitry. Thanks so much for watching. Clean your keyboards responsibly, my friend. Although after 2 years, this was not in such a bad condition as I've seen online about keyboards that have not been cleaned for years. But I'm Dmitry. Thanks so much for watching. Check out this other relevant content. Subscribe for more. I'll talk to you in the next video.